Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we're going to read from the Transcendental Diary. Usually I have it printed out, but today we're going to find it here. And this is the diary of Srila Prabhupada, written by Hari Sori, who was his personal assistant. Prabhupada used to travel with like the secretary and the personal assistant, but the personal assistants had more time. Let's see here. Is this going to come up? Saturday morning. Here we go. Transcendental Diaries, Volume 3, Chapter 2, Washington, July 3rd, 1976. Who here was born before that? That means you need to come up to the front here. Oh. Okay. This document has missing fonts. Well, we'll see here. Here we go. July 3rd. What is that the day before? Yes, which is Independence Day in America. Let me increase the size of this here. There we go. Prabhupada took his walk this morning along the road and then toured the property. This is Washington, D.C. Brishakapi Prabhu, whose tendency to talk verses on the garrulous, enthusiastically glorified, to talk verges on the gregarious, enthusiastically glorified the area and its residents. He pointed out various large mansions where prominent politicians live, as well as some vacant lots nearby. We have some 13 acres. Let's see if I can make the size bigger here. We have some 13 acres, which at one time was used as both a horse. Oh my. That's why I like to print it out. These have trouble like going down the page. Okay, there we go. A number of U.S. congressmen and senators live nearby. A small stream runs across the open grassy midsection, and the back half is forested. There are few buildings, some old stables, now converted to devotional uses, Srila Prabhupada's house, a large swimming pool, and an ex-gymnasium, which now serves as the temple. This has a well-equipped kitchen and offices in the back, and a spacious hall which can easily hold several hundred people. As with the house, the devotees have refurbished the interior and transformed it into a very acceptable temple room. Brishakapi floated the idea that we might buy more land, but Srila Prabhupada's cool response was sufficient indication to him that they should concentrate their efforts on paying for what they already have. See, this is the mode of goodness. The mode of passion, we're always trying to expand, which is good to a certain degree, but is more important to maintain what you have. It's just like there's actually plans to build a hall down on the bottom, but it's more important to continue maintaining what you have until special funds are put aside for that. If you don't have the funds to do those things and it inhibits the maintenance, it sounds good, but it's not. So that's why Prabhupada wasn't as enthusiastic. Srila Prabhupada went in to greet their lordships of Sri Sri Gaur Nitai and Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan. There was a third altar for the deities of Sri Sri Sitaram, which Brishakapi had already ordered, and the deities of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will also be installed. After taking Charanamrita, Prabhupada walked to the back of the temple to mount what used to be one of ISKCON's most elegant Vyasasanas. The base is low, in plain marble, adorned with yellow satin cushions. The carved marble back, gracefully curved and engraced with a lotus flower insignia. It is set against a blue pale wall, which Srila Prabhupada, seated on one, has the impression of Vaikuntha. The Guru Puja ceremony was ecstatic, with 100 exuberant devotees leaping and chanting, while Srila Prabhupada, in what had become a daily ritual in every center he visits, picked up handfuls of rose petal offerings lying at his feet and threw them high in the air over the devotees' heads of his ebullient devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam class was from 7:6:20 through 23, offering a somewhat technical description of the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, who is infallible and indefeatable, is present in different forms of life. It's funny, the infallible. You see certain people read Prabhupada's books, and they work good for advertising, because I saw the one, the billboard in America called the lipstick Infallible. And they must have gotten this from Prabhupada's books, because no one else uses the word infallible, right? But you see, you use a term like that, it catches people's attention, not like long-lasting, but infallible. It's like, wow, this must be good. So we can see that these terms come out in other places. At least they've read the books. It's from the inert living entities, such as the plants, to Brahma, the foremost living being. He is also present in the total material energy and the modes of nature, Sattva-gun, Rajagun, and Tamagun, as well as the unmanifested material nature and the false ego. Although he is one, he is present everywhere, and he is also the transcendental supersoul, the cause of all causes, who is present as the observer in the cores of the hearts of all living entities. He is indicated as that which is pervading and as all-pervading supersoul, but actually, he cannot be indicated. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as the Satchidananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Being covered by the curtain of external energy to the atheists, he appears non-existent. Well, we can't see him, he's not there. You can't see something, it doesn't exist. What if you only believe that the only things that exist are those you can see? Let's take that premise as a fact for a minute. The cell phone works on microwaves, right? And the microwaves go in the phone. Can you see them? Does that mean they don't exist? That means they don't exist and your cell phone doesn't work, right? Is that what it means? No. So it's not dependent on you being able to see it. It's like even dogs can hear range. They have the dog whistle. You blow the whistle, and it makes the dog stop like barking, but no one else can hear it. Prabhupada requested Swarup Damodar Prabhu, who is here with other members of the newly formed Bhaktivedanta Institute, Sadhuputta and Madhava Prabhus, to speak a few words about the scientific view of the Absolute before he himself lectured. A short, round-faced brahmachari from Manipur, India, with a doctorate in biology, Swarup Damodar told his attentive audience that science accepts certain axioms, propositions, assumed without proof for the sake of studying their consequences in physics, chemistry, and mathematics. From these, scientists produce their theories. Similarly, he explained that our Krishna conscious science say the basic prerequisite to understand the difference between life and matter is to have some understanding of the absolute truth. By accepting the axiom of the absolute truth as the source of everything, the basic meaning of God, the difference between life and matter, can be realized. Because we have God, we have the living entities, and we have the matter. And some of them say that consciousness is created from chemicals. But chemicals cannot have consciousness about themselves. They're not envious of other chemicals. They're not aware of whether they're dividing or whether they're... That is something that consciousness cannot be explained through the chemical theory. Srila Prabhupada was satisfied with his statement, and in his own short speech, he stressed that the absolute truth cannot be understood by mental speculation. Quoting the Brahma Samhita, he told us that even if we travel at the speed of mind for millions of years, we will still not be able to understand the absolute truth. The scientific nature of the absolute truth is that it can only be understood by the grace of the absolute truth itself, which is revealed to us in the Vedas and by the Acharyas. The expansion of the absolute truth, how it is working. Krishna summarized before Arjuna, this material world, we see only one universe to our vision. Similarly, there are millions of universes, and in each universe there are millions of planets, and each planet is different from here. That is God's creation. So this is together. Ekam Senaj Stiko Jagat. This material world is 1/4 part exhibition of God's creation, and 3/4 is in the Vaikuntha spiritual world. So by speculation, by our research, it is impossible that we can get a glimpse of knowledge of the absolute truth when we receive it through the absolute truth. About 10 o'clock in the morning, Brishakapi Prabhu came to Srila Prabhupada. For about half an hour, they discussed the problem of single women in our society and the need to get them married. Brishakapi seemed to have special interest in polygamy, and he advanced the idea several times, using the reasoning and arguments that Prabhupada himself had given over the years to support it. Srila Prabhupada, however, would not sanction the idea and patiently held to the principle of monogamy, at least for his disciples in our Western culture. Apart from its illegality, he also felt that if a person was serious about his Krishna consciousness, it would not be a good sign if he wanted 2 wives. Finally, he said that men in the West cannot even responsibly look after 1 wife. What to speak of 2? Ultimately, he said that if there was a problem, it could only be resolved satisfactorily if someone sincerely took to the chanting of the Hare Krishna and absorbed themselves in devotional service. Although Brishakapi accepted Prabhupada's judgment, he seemed, at least to me, to have come for some covert purpose and was disappointed at having not gained it. So, how much more discussion should we have about polygamy then? What do you think? How much more should we have about it? No idea from anybody? Didn't we hear what was there? So does that mean we should discuss it and rehash it? Or Prabhupada clearly seemed to be against the idea? But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be against it. Just like if the government says armed robbery is illegal, it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Is that true? If you have two wives, it'll be easier to rob the store, right? Because they'll help you rob it. Is that how it works? Huh? No. But do we follow that, or do we follow Prabhupada? Or we're 50% surrendered. If Prabhupada wants one wife and we have two wives, that means we're 50% surrendered because we only added 50% more? Is that what it means? No? After a quiet day, the members of the Bhaktivedanta Institute gathered in the early evening in Srila Prabhupada's room to present a slideshow. It was the first official meeting of the Institute with His Divine Grace. They will use these slides to illustrate their upcoming book, Life Comes from Life. Swarup Damodar and Sadhaputta Prabhus also intend to use it in their college preaching. Swarup Damodar, this is the Prabhupada disciple, it's not the temple president here, requested Srila Prabhupada to make specific comments on the content so they could know if their presentation was suitable. The premise of the presentation, as Swarup Damodar had stated in the morning class, was the axiomatic acceptance of an absolute truth. So this is Sankhya philosophy. As Srila Prabhupada comments on Srimad Bhagavatam in the 3rd canto, the Sankhya philosophy is especially meant for persons who are conditioned in this material world. And by understanding the science of devotional service and Sankhya philosophy, one can become free from the modes of material nature. Sounds like we should study that, right? Who wants to be conditioned by the modes of material nature? Ignorance, you're stuck in the past, you're always lamenting. That's why we have to be careful about lamenting things in the past. If we're lamenting things in the past, and we always want to make ourselves a victim for whatever happened, just like when I was left here alone by the Swami and I had to keep the movement going. Should I have run off to some other country and been the victim that he left me alone and he took the money he collected? Or should I try to do the next appropriate thing to serve Srila Prabhupada? We can go on and on being the victim, right? It's like my mother said when people had trouble in their marriage and they go on and on about the divorce. Would it surprise you that people get tired of hearing about the divorce? They're supposed to stay married and work things out. But somehow if people can't, the most important thing is that they go on with their Krishna consciousness. Because we tend to want to blame others, so I don't have to be responsible. You went down and you robbed the bank. You said, well, it was that Kshudi Das's idea. Let me go and arrest him. Do they let you go? No, they may come to look for me also, but they don't let you go. You're still responsible for your part. And this is what we don't realize in the mode of ignorance. We think, well, you're 60% wrong. That means I'm 40% wrong, which means I need to address my part of it. So in the mode of passion, we don't clearly see things. In the mode of goodness, we want to do the helpful thing. They even teach that in business school. Think about the solution, not the problem. The building's on fire. Fortunately, it's not all built out of wood. And we're all sitting here blaming each other for starting the fire. Isn't it more important we figure out how to get to the doorway and get out? Prabhupada said, don't look for why the house caught on fire. Think how to get out of it. So, who doesn't want to be free from the modes of nature? Who enjoys being kicked by passion and ignorance? Let's see here. Let's go back to passion and ignorance. No, we're not going back to it. We're going back to discussing it. See, now I went into, oh, there it is. So we want to propose that in order to understand the distinction between life and matter, one must at least have a glimpse of the absolute truth, at least some idea of the absolute truth. Otherwise, it is completely impossible to understand the difference between what is life and what is matter. That is why scientists nowadays are so much confused about the concept of life and matter. It should be simple, that life, it has consciousness, it grows, it deteriorates, it gives off byproducts, meaning like the plants throw seeds or humans create other humans, and it dwindles away and it dies. Whereas the piece of matter, it's just a piece of matter. This doesn't have baby microphones, right? This is a microphone and its children are mics. Is that it? When you take it away, isn't that like a child of the microphone when you disconnect that? Or is it just a part of it? Doesn't mean it's creating more, does it? Just checking. But if there's a second one, it means it was created by the first one? Okay, good. Otherwise, that'd be a great way to be in the microphone business. You had a microphone that created more microphones. So it's amazing to be confused about this. Even before seeing the slides, Srila Prabhupada had significant comments to make. The absolute truth is explained in the Brahma Sutra, Janmadasa Yataha. Where do we else hear that? Is that the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam? Janmadasa Yataha Niyaditaratascha Arthetu Vignasvara Tene Brahmaridaye Adikavaye Muyantiya Vigna Yat Suryaha Yat Tejasvaram. The absolute truth is that from which, from whom, not which, whom everything comes into existence. Everything emanates. Now that has been discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, because Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary by the same author. So he begins, Janmadasa Yataha Itaratascha Artesu Avigana Svarat. This word is used. He's not a dead body, dead matter. Abhigana, like that. Just like a mother gives birth to a child. She knows everything, how the child was born in the womb, how it is developed, how it is coming at least. On the whole, she knows everything. Similarly, the original source is everything. It is immediately informed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Abhigana experienced knows everything. Avyad itaratascha, directly and indirectly, everything it knows. So the origin of everything cannot be a dead man. That is the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's amazing, like when I was in high school in the 1960s, so they had scientific theories. They said that the modern man had descended from the Neanderthals. And they had the pictures that basically the fetuses were all pretty much the same until right before birth. You couldn't tell the pigs and the monkeys that they were unformed. Well, later they found out when the DNA came out, there's no connection between Neanderthal and the kind of people we are. And they found that that's not true. When they could see inside, they could see it develops as a human form. They think it's just a lump until the last minute. And they describe them as different things. They start the size of a raisin, and then they turn to the size of a grape, and then they turn to the size of an orange, and eventually they turn to the size of a watermelon. But they're not fruits, they're a living embryo. Sometimes they think that they're not really life, you can kill them at some point. One of them said you should be able to wait till like the 6th grade, and then if they're not doing well, you shoot them, right? The Eskimos used to do it. They figured that the child didn't have a soul till you gave it a name. So if they didn't want female children, they'd leave the female child outside in the snow to cry itself to death. Because as long as it didn't have a name, it didn't have a soul, right? Like you give it the soul by giving it a name. So they had all these strange kinds of concepts. So it's basically just a lump until the last month, right? I asked that one woman, she was in the hospital. She was going to have a premature baby about 7 months. And I said, are they fully formed? At that age, can they live? They said, well, they're a little smaller, but they're still fully formed. She goes, I'm going to show you something. So the nurse took me. There was a baby there that was born at 6 months, one at 5, one even at 4.5 months. I know a person, he had a friend that was born that was born at 4.5 months old, and she was 2.2 pounds. So they named her Kilo because she was born at 1 kilo. And that's rather small, but they require some extra attention, but they're still fully formed. So, and when these concepts change, they just pretend they never said them. They don't say, we used to think modern man came from Neanderthals, and now we found that not to be true through genetic testing. The other thing they don't mention, they say that all human life came out of Africa. But there's no negative blood types in Africa. Indians have it because they came from somewhere else. We're talking people in the African origin, but 15% of the world has negative blood types. So they had to have come from somewhere else. Another part of the world, another planet, something, right? You have to go check the Pandavas, see what their blood type was. Doesn't mention that exactly, but they're half from demigods, right? Sadhuputta Prabhu, a PhD in mathematics, has a response to the question from Srila Prabhupada confirmed that mathematical calculations begin with an imaginary starting point, the square root of -1. What's the square root of -1? Must be -1. Isn't -1 -1? Well, -1 -1 would be 1 or 0. No, -1 -1 would have to be -2. Or is -1 minus -1 becomes 1. Because if you take away a negative, it's adding a positive. So -1 minus -1 is +1. How does that sound? All those minuses, it still comes up on top. That should make you feel good. Right? Prabhupada says, yes, if mathematics begins with an imaginary something, why not absolute truth? That absolute truth must be life, as Bhagavat explains. He must be aware of everything. He must be aware of everything. The question is how he became experienced, swarat, independent, just like we require experience, knowledge from somebody else. Experience knowledge is not gained automatically, but the absolute means that he is full of knowledge. How he got knowledge? Swarat, independently. That is the description. You have to imagine at least like that. If the Vedic injunction, it is the fact that the absolute truth is independently cognizant of everything. That is the absolute truth. When Sarup Damodar listed some of the attributes of the absolute truth from the Srimad Bhagavatam and pointed out that there it says the absolute cannot be understood by devotional service. Srila Prabhupada interject, except by devotional service. Srila Prabhupada interjected, yes, we raise the question of how we challenge those rascals. So we need to understand the mathematics of the absolute truth, even the regular mathematics. Because we think with electricity that the electric cost we take as a factor of 100. And the private company wants to add 25% into profit and payment for big executives. So That means that if we have public or government electricity, the cost will be 80% as much. But if we find that the cost is double, that means that 60% is disappearing somewhere, either to theft or inefficiency, because it should cost 25% less, not double. So you can figure how much countries that are, what profit they have, and then you look here and you see how much more it's costing, and you can see that 50 to 60% is lost through stealing and inefficiency. Therefore, the concept that the public would save 25% doesn't become true, because you've already taken out half, right? And we all want to take our half out first. We all think we're entitled to the half. The one person prayed to the deity of Balaji in Tirupati. And so we'll make a deal with God that he's going to give us something and we'll give him half of it, right? I want you to go earn 100 million rand and you bring it back here and I'll give you half of it. How does that sound? So you want God to give you something, and you're going to be so generous that you're going to share half of what he gives with you. So you know what? I'm going to offer the same deal. Whatever money you give me, I'm going to be so generous that I give you half of it. Doesn't that make me charitable? But that's what the person prayed to the deity of Balaji. My dear Lord Balaji, I want to win the R1,000,000 lottery. So he went to play the lottery, and he won 500,000 rand. He says, my dear Lord Balaji, I thank you so much for helping me win this money, but I only have one question. Why did you take your half out first? So this is what we do, is that we prepare food, and we eat it, and then what's left, we put that on a plate and offer it on the altar. Is that it? You don't do that here? You think they do it? It's funny, the one girl in Bali said that she had a Hindu boyfriend, and he said everything had to be offered to God first. So she said she had the last half of her beer. She goes, here, offer this to God, and he was unhappy. I said, well, first, they don't offer something you've already taken half of, and second, they don't offer beer, so of course he wasn't happy with it. Here, I'll give what I have left over. So that shouldn't be the way we think, right? We offer God everything. We ask God to give us a whole lot, and then out of our generosity, we give some back to him. Does that sound good? No. Let's see here. We challenge these rascals because we are following the path of devotion. We are not scientists. We could not challenge unless we are convinced. How is it possible? Because I am layman. How I am challenging these big scientists? Because we have known it through devotional service. So this is science. That is the difference. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, Bhakti mam avijananti. One can understand me through bhakti. And the Vedic injunction is Yasmin vidate sarvam evam viganat bhavati. If somehow or other one knows the absolute truth, then he knows everything. That is the benefit of knowing the absolute truth. So a devotee knows everything. How is it possible, one may challenge? How a person can know everything? So Krishna immediately replies that if I help him specifically, tesham anukampartham, just to show my personal special favor upon him, I light up the torch of knowledge, and he knows everything. So if Krishna helps, one can know everything. Who can check it? This is not possible. This is a science. Must be there. So Krishna helps. If Krishna helps, we get it. And if Krishna doesn't, we go. The children used to sing, if Krishna wants to save you, no one can kill you. If Krishna wants to kill you, no one can save you. But we don't teach the children to sing that anymore. It doesn't sound so good. Somebody gave to my great-granddaughter that this doll that you pull the string and it says, "Jesus loves me, yes I know, because the Bible tells me so. Now I lay me down to sleep, play the Lord my soul to keep." But it sounded so creepy, right? I guess because there was some movie about a doll that would come to life and torment people. Let's see. Krishna helps. With the groundwork laid for their discussion, the scientists begin to show one of the opening slides dealing with this structure theory stated there are two types of axioms, logical and theoretical. Swarup Damodar explained that especially in mathematics, all theories are developed from these axioms. Yet, these are starting points for which there are no proofs. Swarup Damodar said the axiomatic acceptance of the absolute truth is therefore entirely within the realm of science. He showed a slide comparing the characteristics of life and matter. This was based on the statements of Shastra, because as he pointed out, mathematical science has no information of life and cannot make such a comparison. One of the points on this slide stated that life is complex and matter per se is simple. He said that this meant that if there is no life present, a combination of matter which might be quite complex, such as the body of a living being, immediately breaks down into much simpler structures. They can't like shock start like the car. You can jump start it if the battery dies. Well, they try it. Some people, they jump start the heart if they haven't died, but you can't do it like later. Where if the car's been sitting for a week, you can still jump start it. Can't you? But same with a human being. You dig them up and jump start them. Put it back together the way it was. So what about these mathematical theories? And you think, well, math is just 2 and 2 is 4. And 2 times 4 is 8. And 8 times 8 is 64, right? That's the only math. But there are some advanced theories that somehow they have to put on a board that explain certain things, like the speed of light, or certain things affected by other factors. Like if you have 2 cars are coming, they're coming from 1,000 kilometers away, and this one is driving at 100 kilometers an hour, and the other at 150 kilometers an hour. So how many hours will it take them to meet? Who can figure that? It's 1,000 kilometers away. One is going at 100 kilometers an hour, the other's going at 150. What will it take? Some logicians here? What would it take? You can figure it. It's going at 100, the other at 150. How many hours does it take for them to meet? Four. Isn't it? Because you add the 2 together and then divide the total figure. So if it's 2,000 miles, then you add together 250, divide it into 2,000, it's 8. Because you have to factor the 2 together. That's why if you hit someone from behind, if they're going 50, if they're going 100 and you're going 150, it's a 50-mile-an-hour collision. But if you're going against each other, it's 250. You know the difference, don't you? When you bring them in, you see if the one was hit in the back, it's not as bad as the head-on, because you have to add both of them together, whereas the other way you subtract it. So someone asked me, can you explain how Krishna manifest as the cows and the cowherd boys? Is there a mathematical formula to prove this? Yes, of course there is. Can it be explained? Yes. Who can it be explained by? And who did Krishna explain it to? Who? Say it louder. No. Who did he explain it to? Who's more qualified than that? Balaram. He explained how he'd done this. But nobody else. It's like they asked Albert Einstein about the theory of relativity. Can you explain how it works? He says yes, but not in a way that you would understand it. Does that mean it doesn't work? If the aviation engineer explains to you how he made an airplane, people think that the airplanes, like if you turn off all the engines, it goes straight down. If the airplane is if the airplane is 10 miles high, how many miles can it fly without any engines? You know how many? If it's 11 miles high, how many kilometers can it fly? About 600. That's the glide power. When you're in an airplane and all of a sudden they say that they're doing their descent, that means they turn the engines off, almost to off. That's actually gliding. So people don't understand how the mathematical principles think. They saw the movies in World War II, how the plane gets shot and it goes straight down, but that's not how it actually works. Unless they've been shot down. It glides at like 35, 40 to 1. So the last part of flying is just gliding. So people don't understand these principles, but they're there. So can you get a blackboard out and show the mathematics of how Krishna, can you do that? Is it possible to do that? It is, but not for us. So if it's not possible for us, does that mean it's not possible? We can't lift Govardhan Hill, right? Therefore it's not possible. You can't buy a billion rand shopping center, therefore it's not possible. It is possible. Someone like Elon Musk has like 10 trillion rand or something, right? Doesn't he? Something like that. Krishna wondered how they could state with certainty that the soul is complex by nature. Well, we get information that the spiritual world is full of variegatedness. So Rup Damodar explained, it is not just one variety, it is full of varieties. So we take that as proof of the complex nature of life. Srila Prabhupada seems to agree. We see that so long the life is there in the material body, he has got varieties of thoughts. That is the proof that life is full of varieties. As soon as life is not there, no more varieties. Only one variety. So we take that as proof of the complex nature of life. Srila Prabhupada seemed to agree. No more varieties as soon as life is not there. Only one variety, dead body. That's all, finished. And as long as life is there, he has got so many ideas, so many arts, so many philosophies, so many. That is the proof that life is full of varieties. As soon as the life is off, there is no variety. So what do you want? More proof that life is full of variety? Srila Prabhupada pointed out that the Vedanta Sutra is entirely axiomatic. There it is stated that the soul by nature, Anandamaya, blissful, and the variety is the mother of enjoyment. Just like these bunch of flowers, when there are varieties of flowers, it becomes a very enjoyable bunch. If we simply bring rose, although it is very valuable, it is not so enjoyable. But when there are small, insignificant leaf also, that is not as valuable as the rose, but rose becomes beautiful. That is life, and who appreciates it? When a man is dying, living, a dead man cannot appreciate his beauty. There is the beauty. Combination of varieties is beauty. Another slide showed the diamond crystal, a simple molecular structure of which is example of the matter of lifeless matter. I'll have to test that out. Anybody got a 50-carat flawless diamond I can take to check that out? Can someone bring that? I'll check it out. Biologists describe as metabolism means we eat some food and then prasadam is digested in specific ways by so many chemical reactions to the body. So that differentiates also simple matter without life. For example, sometimes it has been asked whether a crystal is alive or not. This is confusing to scientists. Scientists, they say that a crystal is behaving like a living body. It grows, and this and that, they say, but actually there is no flow of matter. That tells us the crystal is not life. There's a fundamental difference. Brishakapi questioned this assumption. It has been said sometimes, Prabhupada, that you have said that some rocks have life. Some rocks, some stones are actually souls in them. Srila Prabhupada confirmed this. Yes, just like in the tree there is a spirit soul. Everywhere is a soul, but development of consciousness makes a difference. The difference between the tree and the man is that man has developed consciousness. Brishakapi asked about the crystal. The crystal glows, but we don't say the crystal has life in the usual sense of the term. Is the crystal also? Anywhere, wherever there is growth, there is life, Prabhupada said. So there the consciousness is simple, not manifest in the crystal form. Like the stone does not show consciousness. Yet Srila Prabhupada told him there are two kinds of life. Stritavara means stationary. The stone is also stationary. It never moves. Big mountain, even though it has got life, it is stationary. And a small ant, it is not stationary. It is moving. So there are two kinds of life, stationed and moving. This is a bit of revelation to Swarup Damodar. But Srila Prabhupada, in order to present this to scientists in general, we are saying specifically that there is no life in stone. Prabhupada was concessional. No, that one stone may be dead, just like a tree is standing. But when it is dead, the symptoms are different. There is no more green leaf. Yes, that is the basic symptom. Without specifically saying, one has seen that a stone 10 years ago will see it has developed now. So life, symptom of life is growth. Is there no growth, he said? It means it is dead. Still wasn't clear because the point they wanted to make in their presentation was that life is present. This would be visible by the complexity of molecular structure. But since this is not visible in a rock, it is a quandary. Even if the stone is growing, there is no metabolism, he said. But it was not a problem for Srila Prabhupada. That is a different thing. We have said that the body is a machine, that all mechanical arrangement may not be the same in many machines, but it is a machine. With the next slide, Swarup Damodar gave the basis of primordial chemical soup theory. Now these chemicals are supposed to be formed through simple reduced substances like water and ammonia and carbon.
I found this on the web for these chemicals are supposed to be formed through simple reduced substances. Check it out.
With the next slide gave the basis of primordial chemical soup theory. Now these chemicals are supposed to be formed related substances. Now, these somehow, under the action of ultraviolet radiation or cosmic force, combine together, and these form amino acids. Now these amino acids, in due course of time, form the polymers called proteins. And similarly, several polymeric compounds develop and are given a long period of time, and is growing to give life. That is the fundamental background of the scientific life, study of the origin of life. This is what they have proposed. These molecules, somehow they combine, according to the molecules, to man theory, and developed over billions of years from inanimate chemicals into living forms. Prabhupada laughed, deriding the scientists as rascals for speaking such things. These are theories only. We have seen here the theory of chemical reduction. Who can see after billions of years? He is finished within hundreds of years. These are theories only. We see practically. Egg appears like chemical combination, but if you give fermentation, life comes within few days. Why should we wait for billions of years? This is nonsense. What kind of scientist are you? Everyone laughed at the cutting expose. Proposing to wait for millions, you nonsense. Who's going to accept your foolish theory? We see practically that within a week, and you say billions of years. Nonsense. Stop that. Tell them you are nonsense. Stop. Don't expose yourself anymore. Just see their foolishness. And this is accepted as scientific. You know, they're doing experiments. They say to find the chemicals, you have to experiment what the different chemicals do with each other. Just like they experimented to make the atom bomb. And it was a very difficult thing because it hadn't been done before. Didn't seem like it's possible, right? If it hasn't been done before, it must not be possible, right? Just like J.P. Morgan's father told him when he was working on with Thomas Edison on 2 new inventions, that it wasn't going to work, it was just child's play, and you're a fool to put any money in it. Of course, the inventions were electric wiring and light bulbs. But if people haven't seen them before or done the experiment, they don't believe it's possible. So same thing, it didn't seem like the atomic bomb was possible, but it was possible because it happened. But if someone does an experiment with them, they'll never find such a thing. And even after the experiment, it takes quite often a time for someone to realize. Benjamin Franklin put a key on the kite and with a long string down and flew it in the air, and the electricity from the lightning hit the key and came down the cord all the way to the ground. So you can produce electric current. That was 1753. When did Thomas Edison come out with electricity? A year later? How many years later? 1883. 130 years it took to make that work. So why don't people believe in the spiritual world? Why didn't they think about cell phones? Because nobody had done the experiment. So when we do the experiment, it's like you don't believe that the ocean is wet. And you refuse to believe it until the high tide comes up to here. But I think we're kind of too far up in the hill for the high tide to come here, unless there's a big tsunami. So this is why people don't believe in the soul and in Krishna, because they haven't done the experiment. Prabhupada says, can you show me God? The answer is yes, if you're willing to do the experiment. So we start to do it, we start to feel it. We start to feel the presence of Krishna. Just like if you get a drop of water comes out of the sky, you figure a rainstorm might be coming. You haven't experienced the whole rainstorm, but you've experienced something. So would we begin to go on chanting and feel pleasure and peace of mind unless we were experiencing something? So but we have to be willing to do the experiment. So I think that's time. There's time for a second comment. The computer made a comment on that. I don't know why. What was it that said? Let's see. What did it see? So we ask a question about oxidizing and reducing agents. Somehow the computer made a comment, but no one else is. How's that? Does that mean it's alive and you aren't? All right, we'll stop there. Hare Krishna. Any more comment from the computer? Siri, does life come from chemicals?
Okay, I found this on the web for Does Life Come from Chemicals? Check it out.
We're checking it. Wait. We're checking it. That's all about the primordial soup. Water is an ingredient of life. Okay, we'll turn them off now. How come the computer made 2 comments and no one else did?